Just to fill you in a wee bit of the history of today's meeting, each school has an EF coordinator, and we've been working together to extend curriculum provisions within the ALC. This year the ALC has sort of taken a new dimension in that because of the lack of support coming through from the class, we have established a number of groups where teachers are coming together to share good practice and to try to work on areas for the way forward. Two of the groups that we have established already is a psycho group and a pastoral coordinators group. And really the psycho group was the first group that met within the area, and it's been hosted by Dolores Morgan in Rathore. The comments coming back from psychos from across the schools that have taken part in this group has been just brilliant, where psychos now can come together, share good practice, but identify areas where they can work on for the future. On the basis of that, we've established a pastoral support group, and I know Frances Lloyd from St Louis is going to be taking that group on board. They had their first meeting already with Jeremy Pettigrew in Our Ladies. So Frances has taken on responsibility for chair of that group, and Denise Crowley, the vice principal here, is going to be the vice chair. So that group is taking a life for itself. The third group, which we have established now, and it's really down to Tim, is the ICT group. There's so much good practice happening in schools at the moment in relation to ICT. We thought it was a really good idea at the ALC level to bring all the schools together to share the good practice of what's happening within schools. Sometimes whenever we get out and talk and we see what's happening elsewhere, we can see good ideas to bring back to our own school. So really on behalf of the ALC, I would like to welcome you all here to St Mary's today. Thank you all for attending. I know this time of the year we're all busy with GCSE and the A-level and coursework and different things like that. So I hope today is really beneficial for you and you're able to share the good practice and maybe identify some areas where you could bring back to your own school. I want to thank Tim for putting today together. Days like this just don't happen. There's a lot of organisation that takes place in bringing things together. And secondly, for the schools that have come forward to present and to share good practice, I want to thank all of them. I think we have a total of, who's presenting? 13%. So many thanks to you. Only for you coming forward we wouldn't be able to have it today. So I think we'll just hand over to Tim and he's going to fire away. So thank you all for coming.
Thanks very much. As you may have heard, I'm Tim Brown and the Entitlement Framework Coordinator for our school, which means that I have the job of being the e-learning coordinator, chair of the e-learning committee is the official title, because I teach IT, which has led to this event for today. And we have, thanks very much for everyone who's turned up, and thanks particularly for those who are willing to speak as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to join me this afternoon. My name is Robert Johnson, and I'm head of ICT in Cookstown High School. During this afternoon session, I'm going to introduce two after-school projects that have been going on in our school. The first one looking at the Raspberry Pi computer, and the second one in relation to mobile phone app development. 18 months ago, I ordered and received my first Raspberry Pi computer, a small computer costing approximately £26. The technology, I have to say, sat in my top drawer for the first possibly 3 to 4 months. But then I started experimenting with it. I connected it into my home TV and used it as a media center. It's fantastic, the potential and the power it has. I was actually able to do things that I couldn't do on Apple TV. I was able to set the same little computer up as a wireless print server on a normal printer for my iPad and laptop. A very interesting piece of technology. But there's more to it. This piece of technology does not have to be limited by wires, using a simple mobile phone charger or a little device that will hold 4 batteries. You can power it by battery. Take it a little bit further. Last summer was the launch of a high-definition webcam for the same device. And that got me thinking, We have taken a Raspberry Pi in school, and I have a little Raspberry Pi computer here, connected onto it with 3 wires, a little PIR sensor. The same sensor that you have for your floodlights around the house. 3 wires connected into pins. I have a memory card connected into it, and connect your webcam. Basically what we have developed using this and approximately 20 lines of code is a little camera that will capture an image when anything goes past. But what's the use of this? We are actually hoping to use this as wired Pi, a Raspberry Pi computer that can be placed outside, attached to a tree, and capture photographs of wildlife. By support of our student technician from the University of Ulster, we hope to actually introduce this within primary schools or local feeder primary schools. And even so far, we have quite a bit of interest with that. The Raspberry Pi computer, we have taken a step further. And you'll see in the background here a weather balloon. This is a 100-gram weather balloon. And down below it, we have a payload box. In 2 weeks' time, we are planning to launch a weather balloon that is actually 16 times the size of this, 1,600-gram balloon, with a payload, and in that payload, it basically has the same technology. It has a Raspberry Pi computer, a webcam, a memory stick, but we went a little bit further. We've got some help from a local high-altitude balloonist, who is actually, and is also a radio enthusiast, and it will be transmitting an image live to the internet every 10 minutes during that flight. The flight we have set up, the hope is, it will reach about 20 miles high, and it will float without the balloon bursting, and hopefully transmit images from right across Europe, with the aim of getting images of curvature of the Earth during the flight. This project offers fantastic opportunities to join subjects together. And in fact, in Cookstown High School, we've used it to join schools together. The project is a joint project between ourselves and Holy Trinity College. The funding has been attracted from sponsors, including ICT, Danny, Buck, and the local council, and they have provided the funding for it. The flight, some of the STEM subjects involved in science, from the science of the flight. We have the technology and the use of the Raspberry Pi computer. We have engineering, and we have students from technology designing our payload container and the mounts required in it. If we want to go a step further and integrate STEAM, we can also art, where the capturing of near-space images will be of use within that. And of course, mathematics. Within the team, and I have 6 people within the team. I have 2 students from GCSE Geography. Their focus has been to work with weather predictions and flight predictions. And there are a number of websites that help us with that, including HabHub. If you wish to follow the flight, I would recommend that you use Twitter, and you can search for #HighTime, and that can be followed on the internet. In 2 weeks' time, we hope to launch that balloon on the Saturday morning. It has been a busy year for the use of technology in Cookstown High School. The second project that I said I would speak about was mobile phone app development. 2 years ago, I went to the University of Ulster and pupils entered a competition using MIT App Inventor. That allows mobile apps to be developed for Android devices. The kids from that project developed a little app called EcoSmart, which promoted recycling in the Cookstown District Council area. And the pupils from that were selected as young innovators to meet the Prince Andrew, the opening of an area within the Titanic building. This year we went a step further, and we have developed an app called DavaNav. You may be able to see a little bit of a hole this right. DavaNav is a mobile app that acts as a sat-nav for users of Dava mountain bike trails in Cookstown District Council. Within the app, we have a navigation system, and pupils can actually go in, or the user can go in, and we have maps that can be scrolled, zoomed in and out of, and navigated. There is also a series of tourist information within the app. App development, when we hear the concept, can sound frightening. I would recommend that those that may be interested take a look at a website called AppFurnace. It is an online development platform for mobile apps. I'll say that again, AppFurnace. It has a platform that's very intuitive, and for the navigation screens within it are no more difficult than setting up a PowerPoint presentation. I did mention that this is a sat-nav for those using mountain bikes. How does that operate? Pupils using their mobile phone were able to go and capture GPS coordinates, add them into the mobile app, and the software allows triggering of different media based on their location. That could simply be text, it could be audio, video, or a page could open from the internet. That means that the app that we have developed may only be a start, because within schools you can develop any location-aware software, virtual tours of your local area, local history tours of areas. It's something very, very different. The pupils find it very interesting. This year, the pupils have reached the national finals of Junior Dragons Den with their app, and they have also entered Aircom Junior Spiders. How do I get time? I will do some time. But how do I get the information for the work I do? One of the things I have learned to use over this past year in particular is Twitter. I don't really use Facebook as a social network. I don't chat to people online using Facebook or put photographs of myself up. But you will actually find myself on Twitter. If you wish to search for Go Next Time, you will be able to follow me. I have joined a community of Northern Ireland educators online who meet on a Wednesday afternoon called Northern Ireland EdChat, NIEdChat. I would highly recommend that if you're on Twitter, you search for that hashtag. And what I have found is, if I want to find the answer to a question, whether it be to do with my teaching classroom, the use of iPads, the use of Raspberry Pi technology, that I can post the question to that group, and someone will find the answer for me. Also, the group I'm speaking to, I realise the format of your afternoon is very like a Teach Me. I have been involved in Teach Me. I hope to attend one in Derry on Friday evening. I hope it will actually be streamed on the internet. But it's a great community of people sharing information about new ideas, both in the use of technology and both new ideas in teaching and learning. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If there's anyone who has questions.
I'm Paddy McElhenney from Our Ladies, and I'm responsible for the development of IT in the school. Two main things, areas that we work on at the moment is our VLE, which have been up and running for a few years, and this year the staff have all been supplied with iPads as well. At the minute it's just the staff have got iPads, but we're hoping that within the next couple of months we'll have a batch of 30 iPads that can be used in the classroom as well. We're not asking students to take an iPads at the minute, we're just going to buy a batch that staff can book for a particular class. What I'm showing here is I teach mainly IT, but I have one maths class in the junior school as well. And whenever we first got our iPads at the start of the year, Roisin and Walter Brad and myself went up to the college because they've been using, I see Kevin there, we've been using them for quite a while. And one of the programs or the apps that I was showing up there was Show Me. And I think it's brilliant for maths. And I've integrated into some of the courses on our VLE. So I'll just show you one example of what got here. In J2 Maths, we have various worksheets, etc. But what I have done with my maths class, every time I do a topic, I put revision questions up on the VLE for them. So if I take one of those, for example, you can see at my last attempt I got 10 out of 100 in that. That was good. So the students, when they go on, they can attempt this quiz. So if I go in and I attempt this, it's basically a set of 10 questions relating to a topic which was the equations and expressions that we were doing here. And the students can go through each one of these. This one here is asking them to simplify it and giving them options. They're all multiple choice. Hopefully the students just don't guess them. They work out it first of all and then give the answer. But what I wanted to show you was that if I was to go through this and give answers here, and I'll probably get less than 10 out of 100 this time, but I don't care. If I go through, I'll just go through these questions. If I get to the 10th question, and just finish up here. Okay, and go to next. It tells me the answer that I got. I can then submit those here. But what I then did was, for each of the questions, the student can see whether they're right or wrong, but underneath it I've given a correct answer in text form, but then I used the Show Me app, and I recorded myself. I don't know if you know Show Me, but Show Me is just like a little interactive whiteboard on your iPad, and can you record yourself playing on it. So if I click here,
okay, rearranging the left hand.
That's it there. Shouldn't take as long as that to load up.
-3 equals, on the right hand side, 2y plus 12. To solve this equation, I'm going to take the variable 6 minus 3, the left hand side, be rewritten, and giving the numbers to the right hand side, the equal sign. Equals 2y, begin by taking plus 12, the numbers to the right hand side.
Yeah, there's the other one loaded up.
Where's the phone?
Blame C2K. So that's more or less it. Like, it'll go on there for a minute, but that's more or less what we do. And the students can go on there. They can do the questions. They can see the answer there as I typed it out using feedback, and then they can click and see the video. And I don't know, nobody's ever said it took as long as that to load before. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions? So that is a free app, is it? The Show Me?
It's a free app, yeah, it's very good.
And then the automatically, is it limited to how much you can store on it? You know, once you start using the app and upload, there's a limit, or?
Well, I have, I don't know, I must have about 20, 30 videos on it now at the minute. They're all uploaded to the clouds, and I just take the VLE, or I take the URL and put it onto, my link. But it's.
Can you export it as well? Can you export that video somewhere else, or
Sorry?
can you export that video anywhere
Yeah.
else?
Yeah.
So you don't have to link it off the link, you can
You
actually.
don't have to, you can email it to students, you can link it, there's a facility to email it to people,
Yeah.
but it's much easier for us just to
Yeah.
take the URL and just put it onto our VLE.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Right, okay, folks. Tim says we've started this with our kids, and we're currently in a situation where, well, basically, where are we now? How do we get there? And where do we hope to go from here on as such? September 2013, every year 8 student in our school got an iPad mini device, one of these, okay? With a case like the one I have here, and a range of apps, there's 5 or 6 apps that we bought in using the volume purchasing program and put them on them. The teachers had the iPads a year in advance, okay? Now most of the classrooms are Wi-Fi, and we've also allowed our year 13 or 14s to bring their own device, be it a laptop or a tablet of any sort. We didn't get too fussy over those in terms of using iPads. The rationale at every school, you know, the hardware does meet the demand. What's in school is maybe inferior to what kids have at home. Future-proofing pupils powering down. I'm going to get, there's a fair few slides here, so I'm going to go through some of these quickly just to get to the crux of it. We want to increase the use of e-learning, engagement of the pupils. How about that, if they're sitting in a room, they can access up-to-date resources from their desk without trying to book into an IT room that only half the computers worked in or somebody else had booked into that. Just to try and move things on a bit, improve their self-management, all this sort of, all the reasons behind moving down this line. There's your typical family setup where everybody's sitting at home on their device. And that is the case, like, to be honest, you know, between phones, iPads and tablets and whatever. On the practical side of things as well, I'm sure you're all the same. Our first years are all about school bags, you wouldn't carry yourself. The way at home when they have a bad day with all the books on it, you know. Long-term savings, like investing in hardware, particularly through C2K, is not sustainable. It's too expensive for setting up IT rooms and that. And the fact that before we went down this, we were told that, you know, C2K, all schools are going to become wireless. So we went down this line on that proviso that every classroom would be wireless and the kids would have internet access without sitting at a desktop machine. And obviously the sort of explosion of mobile devices in society's use of mobile technology. The timeline, we started this way back in September 2011, where we basically bought in a few for staff, that is myself and the principal. Bought 2 of them in with a new principal. He was one of his sort of things that he was into, so I said, do I have to buy 2 of them in and we'll try them? So we had them in for a couple of months. And throughout that year, we did a survey of students, of the entire student body. It was actually on the induction days in August, where we literally marched these classes in an IT suite, and I had a wee Google Doc questionnaire, sat them down, and so it was a good 600, 700 pupils actually filled it in. And we surveyed parents as well, where I created another Google Doc, put a link on the website, and sent them all a group call text. Say, please go to the website, we're looking into this iPad, this sort of blah blah, and give us your feedback on it. So we did a fair bit of surveying on that. We then went and looked at best practice in other schools. We went down to Wallace, myself and Mr. Keane from the Sacred Heart to pay a visit to Wallace, down in Lisbon there. They had gone down this line a year or 2 previously. We sort of picked their brains over what they had done and what they advised to do and what not to do. It was definitely worthwhile. And then in June, at the end of that year, we basically offered them to all members of staff. We didn't make it compulsory. We said to staff, look, we're going to provide you with an iPad if you want one. If you take one, you must do certain things. You must use it as part of your teaching and learning. You're not getting a teacher planner, use it as a planner, experiment with it. Just things like that. It was a very softly approach. We didn't say, right, there's an iPad, you must do A, B, and C. We give them out and we let people go to their own level. And I'll come back to that. So staff had them basically a year, to the end, June 2012, and they got them at the end of June. So we didn't have time to do any training or anything. We literally got them out of the boxes, took them into the room, showed them how to open up, create an iTunes account, and the only thing we did was we got them to sync their C2K email. So there's 5 or 6 of us, sort of ICT group, we've got all staff doing that, and we just let them go home for the summer. And the idea was that they come back and they've gone through it a bit themselves, and they've done a wee bit on themselves, rather than being totally dependent on us to sort of babysit them through it. So staff came back at the end of August, and most of them were using their iPad, even if it's just to browse the internet or send emails, they were using it and getting used to the idea of a tablet and apps and that sort of thing. So we had a real focus on that year on staff development, where we have directed time on a Monday afternoon, and I got, there's a cycle of 4 weeks department pastor, that's why I got ICT built in there. So every couple of weeks we had a Monday afternoon for staff development. We had a couple of staff days as well, where we brought in external people to help do a bit of training. We used that company called iTeach, which we had to pay for. And we also used Danny and Niall in the AMA Centre, who came in and did staff training for free. So if you're looking into that, that would be the line to go down. So we have a real focus on staff skill acquisition. And I kept on telling staff, folks, next September you're going to be sitting in a class with year 8s and they're going to have an iPad. What are you going to do with it? What can you do with it? How will it make your life easier? How will it make your lessons more engaging? All this sort of thing. And some staff really ran with it, some didn't, but we're still working there. So the year really targeted staff and their development. Towards the end of that year, that academic year in May, we did the entire student survey again, just to confirm that there was a major demand for students. And then in September there, we deployed to year 8s. Okay, and the plan is over the next maybe 6 months to a year, we'll deploy to year 9s and year 10s, so we'll come back to that in a minute. One of the questions we asked parents, would you prefer your son used a portable device instead of or along with textbooks? And there was a 68% sort of response, so 68% of the yes. Okay, so a good positive indicator there. Same question to pupils, you had 84%. Kids were just mad to get them. In fact, our second and third years were more out of school, mad. And when are we getting our iPads? When? Because the first years all have them and they're walking about, you know. So it's a big talking point among the students as well. There's concerns, there's no point saying it's all wonderful and it's educationally viable and great, but there are concerns, and we have had sort of issues and problems that we're still sort of coming across. Security of the devices, effective use, do the kids use them, does it benefit what they're doing, or do they just sit and play games all day? Value for money, misuse, inappropriate content, is it going to make a difference, or is it just a sort of fad or a wee thing at the minute with the iPads, you know, or we're going back to books? So those are sort of the concerns that, and I'm the one sort of driving it out and managing it through the school, so it all comes back to me if there are issues, you know, so I will always have these things sort of in the back of my head. That there is probably the main thing to focus on today, if I don't show anything else. If this is to work, there's 2 things must happen. Every student within if it's a class or a year group, every student must have access to one of these. Okay? And your staff must be using them as part of what they're doing. Not all the time, every lesson, every day, but they must be using them in some shape or form. And if either of those 2 things are in place, there's no point. You know, we looked at buying sets in for classes and for departments, but we just thought, you know what, we'll kit out the entire first year group, we'll train up the staff, and so both those things are covered. If you have a class and one, you know, even the finance end of things, we talked about getting the Wallace route was the pupils paid, signed a contract, the parents paid them off over 3 years. We looked at that there. What if a parent doesn't want to buy into it? One fella sitting in a class and 25 others with an iPad this month. What do you do when you're renting them out? So, you know, those are the 2 things. If you're going to go down these lines with your pupils, everybody within a certain group, year group, cohort, whatever it is, must have access to a device in school and at home. And staff need to be using them. And staff is that's the main area for I'm the IT coordinator, so I'm responsible for training up staff and getting this thing done, and some of you are in the same boat here. That's probably the biggest battle, it's not a problem, but it's the area where I'm still trying to work on an awful lot, you know. Just generic basics, you know, we use PRSD. Over this past 4 years I've been drawing up PRSD targets, thinking, right, how can I get people to use this? What can they do? I get them to even investigate using it. So the first year was everybody had to create 2 resources on their iPad that they could use in their classroom. Okay, just a resource, be it just a PowerPoint or a wee iMovie or a Keynote or whatever it is. Sorry, not Keynote, or a Pages document. That's what we say to staff. Just create 2 of those in the year that staff had them and pupils didn't. So people were doing that there. We also bought staff sort of one of these as well, just to get off on a tangent here. Staff got an iPad and one of these wee adapters for VGA cable. So we plug it into the board just like I'm doing now. We've said to staff, right, usually as an organiser we don't buy teacher planners anymore. Okay, and I see somebody on the list there is going to talk about iDossio. That's one of the things that we're using. And use it as a teaching aid. Staff were given 6 apps, same 6 apps that the students got, and that's what we focus our training on. And I say PRSD is the main. Even this year we have PRSD targets that are ICT and iPad relevant. We've asked every department to make an electronic resource or an electronic book for J1 pupils, for J2 pupils now actually for September, because our J1s are now going into J2, so we want them to have electronic textbooks or electronic resources. So teachers are working with that at the minute. Clad will talk a bit about that after. And then we had subject-specific staff development. As part, when we purchased the iPads, the company we purchased them from, a part of the package was so many staff development hours. So rather than take some guy in to talk to 50 members of staff, he said, right, I want you to work with the languages departments, Irish, Spanish and French. And it was a full day's training we had, so we took them in for 3 half days, if you like. There was still more of those to go. So I organised with him beforehand that he was to target languages, so he's done 2 sessions with the language teachers and they're from. And the line we down, one of the angles we went was the idea of textbook. I said to the departments, right, look at what you're currently using, resources textbook wise, can you change that to an electronic format? Be it buying in a license for an electronic book, or if you're using handouts and Word documents and PDFs, can you put them all in a package and have them somewhere the kids can put them onto their iPad? And there's been a fair explosion in that there. Sort of running over time with our time, so I'll go quick. In terms of the cost, we looked at the Wallace model where the pupils paid, the families paid them off themselves, and some parents expressed a reservation about this, so we said, right, this is what we think about it. Basically, the school bought them in bulk, 130 of them in, paid for them up front. The money came out of the curriculum budget. We then said to parents, right, we're going to give your son an iPad, 6 apps, a case worth £30 or £40, and 2 years warranty insurance. And we're going to ask you to pay half the price. We pay half, you pay half. So it was a partnership between the school and the parents. And what I actually did was I drew up a letter and I listed all those things. And then I listed the high street value. So the price they were paying off was actually less than half the price. So they jumped at it. And this was, they were all saying, sure, you couldn't not. Once they paid off, they have full ownership of it. Until they paid off, the school still owns the device and everything else. Okay? So parents signed a contract, and they weren't asked to pay so much a month. They just said, look, could you pay this off by the end of this academic year? And we have a wee cashless system in the canteen where parents can go in and put money on the student's account remotely. That AS-Quid thing there. There's a feature in that where you can put other bills on it. So we put a bill on it for the iPad payment. So I think at this stage of the year, maybe 75% of the users have paid off the full amount that they've asked them to. So it's been relatively successful. It's been complaints. So if you're looking at finance, that is one of the big things. These things, how do schools finance them? We've went down the 50-50 route, and it was well received by parents, and has been. Pupil rollout to practical terms, we didn't give them the first day of September, we waited until the 3rd week to get settled in. Our Year 8 form teachers were strategically placed. They're really good IT people, because that's a Year 8 form teacher. And I sat down with a timetable maybe this time last year and said, right, who's teaching J1, Maths, English and RS? We need these teachers in here because they're the ones who are going to drive the iPad initiative. And they're the ones, they're your key subjects you have 5 days a week. So if Maths and English and RS are using these things, that's the back of the book. They're going to become part and parcel of teaching and learning every day. Okay. There's umpteen different ways of doing this. There's MDMs, there's remote management. We basically took the devices, configured them, put the apps on them, and give them out to the kids and say, right, go away, create your own iTunes account. It's yours to manage, yours to look after. I would probably need more time to talk about it. There have been problems with that, no point saying otherwise. But it has worked to a certain extent, I suppose. We did basic training with them. We used the first year form teachers. I basically give them a list of things, right? Show your kids how to do A, B, C, D, E, and F. We have an iPad hospital where our technicians are available morning break and lunchtime for first years to call into them and say, whatever's wrong, we can sort it out. And I sort of classes on my timetable that are protected, where I go into J1 classes once a week and take a bit of training. We also did a parents' evening where an afternoon we came in and went through some things as well. So, problems. One of the main problems, funny enough, was the casings. At the start, we bought the casings for staff. We bought weren't great, and in the first year, 6 or 7 staff iPads were broke. Since then, we upgraded to the Griffin cases, which is this one here, basically the iPad 2 one. They're larger, obviously, and there hasn't been, touch wood, any damage this year at all. So if you're doing this, casings are, I know it's simple, but it's really important to get a good casing where the corners are protected. How do pupils use them? Access, resource, organise their work, email. We also preloaded the school calendar onto it, so they wouldn't look when their holidays are and all that sort of thing. Just self-organisation, audio, visual, different things like that there. Some of the apps and some of the things we're doing, where are we going next? The plan is that, well, this year all year 8s are equipped. The target was that every department has an electronic resource or an electronic textbook, and we're at the point now where some departments actually don't use a physical book anymore. They have the electronic book where they can download it from the VLE, or they've made a link in iTunes U to download the book, so the kids maybe have 7 or 8 books on their iPad. Next year, the hope is that we have years 8, 9 and 10. Say the plan is in September we're going to repeat with our first years, so that'll be our first and our second years. And the principal's looking into the minute at financing the current second years, so that in September we will hopefully have all of Key Stage 3 with an iPad. But again, it's very dependent on staff weighing in and being prepared for that. And then the following year, obviously, you're going to GCSE and you're going to be post-16. Excuse me. So that's a quick run through how we did it. Like, cut through a lot of things, and if we're doing it again, I'll probably change certain things. But at the end of the day, the way it stands, all of our first years have an iPad. They're using them in their classes. Not all of our classes, not all of the time, but there's a fair use out there, and it's positive. Again, I surveyed parents, staff, and kids just before Christmas, and there are issues, but the vast majority of them are saying, "Yep, this is good. It works. Keep it going." So that's where we are, how we've got there, and hopefully we'll roll on that a wee bit more. So I know that's very quick. There's an awful lot in there, but that's where we are. If you know.
There's a couple of schools in the room already using, as Kevin mentioned, Idosio. So what we did is we've got 6 people on the whole school ICT team, and we've been trialling it for about the last 4 months before we roll it out to staff to see what they'd like to think about. Now, it does a hell of a lot, I'll say that. So I'm only going to just show you what I kind of use it for, but there's certainly many, many more things. So the first thing you need to do is to put your class list in. Again, similar as with your planner, you've got your the kids' names, and just on the right hand side here you've got different tabs. Now, I'm just going to show you some of the things that I'm using it for, your basic things like attendance. So the first thing I'm going to do in a lesson is that's hooked up, it's open, I'll have a quick look and I move on. It's very, very quick. Take a register, you can do an extra quick attendance, or again you just attend all. And even if they're not all there, it's just a case of finding the girl who's not there and marking her absent. So it's a very, very quick attendance check. Then, depending on what subject that you teach, I teach business studies, so we've got applied business studies, so I've got coursework and an exam. So it's good for keeping me organised by letting me know who's handed in exactly what they're supposed to have handed in, and then I can use it to link up target grades where they're at. So as a change for school, it kind of keeps me ready as to which kids I'm hitting and which kids I'm not hitting, so I can keep an eye on the corridors as they go past every day. So they don't like to see that on the screen. And again, on a basic level, when I bring a girl in to have a little chat about how she's doing, they can see straight away by looking at the colour of the icon, or the happy face or the unhappy face, whether they're meeting their target grade or not. And again, that's coursework. Depending on what you're doing, it can be just as basic as ticking they've done their homework, or if I've done a little bit of an assessment in a lesson at the start of a lesson, or questions and answers, or a presentation, I'll use it to mark that off. So that, I would say, is the foundation level, the basic level. Once you put your class list in, you're in a position where you can enter your timetable. And this is what I like. One of the strongest things for me is we're on a 2-week cycle here, and it's very, very flexible for you to set up the length of your lessons. And if you can see at the top of the screen there, you've got your dates. You can just put start and end dates. So mine is already set up to go right to the summer. Very, very easy to colour code. So I teach careers and A-level business studies, GCSE business studies. Very simple for me to look at if I've got it open to know what's coming throughout the day, or if I'm planning, for instance, just to have a little look. And again, just a simple touch takes me straight to that class for the attendance when they come through the door. You only do that once, and like I said, your timetable's there. And I should point out that, kind of similar to what Kevin said, we wanted to break it, if you like. We wanted to find what could go wrong. And I was pretty certain that nothing could go wrong, and then I deleted everything by mistake, all my class lists, which had taken me pretty much a full day on a free day to enter. But there is, you can back it up. You can back it to Dropbox, or mine is backed to Google Drive. So if I do lose anything, as long as I'm backing her up, I can access it again straight away. And that's happened a couple of times, to be honest. The planner section on the left-hand side, the planner section is where really it comes into its own for me. So this is my week, or what I've planned my week so far anyway. So it's quite simple. If I'm sitting at home on a night over the weekend, I can write out what I'm going to do. But again, if I go into a particular lesson, it allows me to put notes in, but also to attach my resources. As you can see there, the resources are already open there and uploaded. And again, you can upload it from a folder that you create, an iDocument folder. If you want to do it from home, I do it from home. Just literally put everything in Google Drive, I upload it, and I come in, it's already there in a lesson for me. I just click open. And again, the kids get used to seeing this now in front of the lesson every day, so they know what's coming as well. It's very, very simple to add something in, just your paper clip as usual. And you have a number of ways then that you can do things. So, you know, staff do websites. I'll show you a little thing in a minute that the music teacher has found really, really beneficial. Because the one thing is we've got a nice little mix on the whole school ICT team. So I'm looking at it as a business teacher, so most of my work is coursework and is hand in and hand back. So that's why I need to be organised with dates, etc. But Susan across the hall of music is on a completely different kettle of fish. All her work is practical. So I'll show you how she uses it in a sec. But as you can see, it pretty much does everything that you expect it to do. Pictures, you can add your photos, you can use your files or your websites. Or one thing that I'm looking at the moment is recordings. I've seen somebody do this on the internet, to be honest. It's just a little podcast. If a teacher's not going to be there, if a colleague has access to it, they can literally just play your instructions for the class in front of them, they'll listen, and then off they go. So you don't need to leave work behind or to take work up, to stay behind. Now, there's also one final thing that I'd like to show you. And again, you really could spend an hour talking about this, but I find it very helpful in parents' evenings. Taking it to the hall, I've got everything that I need right in front of me. I don't even have to bring my planner like I say anymore, or even my bag. If I go back to my classes and just say take one of my levels, 13C. So I've got my class list right here. If I just double click on a girl's name, you'll see it along the bottom. Sorry. You've got different sections. Now, if you like, and depending on the course, with the year 14 girls, for instance, this year, some parents have asked for to be contacted via email, so I can take the parents' email and I can send them comments or keep in touch. But also last year I did my coursework through Google Docs, so the handy thing is the girls can submit coursework to me and I can mark it and email it back to them. And this is literally as simple as me tapping on email, if the email address is in there, attaching the file and it goes straight back to them, the amended copy with my annotations. If I'm in a parents' evening and I've prepared something beforehand, okay, again, I'll just take a couple of lines down so that I know I've got everything that I need. Attendance is very, very helpful. If you're making your point, which can happen to parents, and you may have your planner in front of you, the parents are looking at 25 names, and the kid's trying to say that she is there quite a lot of the time. You can't really dodge a graphic, so if the graphic says they've only been there 35% of the time, I can quickly link back to my electronic attendance and show exactly where she's missed. So it's very, very quick and very, very clean. And again, if you like, you can set it up to have any column that you want in here, but I really, at a parents' evening, only want to tell the parent where the girl should be and where she's at. So again, at the top of the button, the parents like the fact, and they fed back, they like the fact that it's there for them to see. And again, it doesn't lie. So this parent's obviously quite happy she's on a B. If it's a D, she's not so happy. And then I mentioned earlier on, Susan across the hall in music, she would use it a little bit differently. She would use it to record the students playing, and she would use that to assess it, or to sit down with the student and watch the work back. Or again, in a parents' evening. So again, there's a little link to a video clip, just of a student playing something for a minute, that she then uses to grade. She should watch it, and she will put her comments and the grade into where I've shown you, so that when she sits down with the student, not the parent, she can go across the board, her comments and the annotations, where it's at grade-wise. And if she needs to email it out to the student the video, so the student can go home and watch it, take on board the feedback, she just attaches it and sticks it on. Well, that's all I'm going to talk to you about, but there genuinely is a hell of a lot more you could do. But what we're trying to do as a whole school ICT team is trying to get staff to find something that fits what they like. I know what it does for me, Susan knows what it does for her, so we thought we'd do that this year, so that next week when we launch it to staff, I'm not preaching to the rest of the staff about why it's great as a business studies teacher. We're going to be able to point to different people in the room who can show different things and show it off a little bit. That's me, unless you've got any questions.
Just in relation to SIMS, is it marrying with SIMS and your SIMS attendance? No.
Not at the moment.
That's just an individual teacher
Yes,
thing, is it?
yes, but we're looking into that, actually, a conversation with him about that. It's not easy, to be totally honest.
But you can actually export from SIMS into to save you a bit of time. You know,
Okay.
I'm not sure of the process, but there is a process to get it out and back in again.
And the kind of way we're dealing with that at the minute, when we're speaking to the teachers who are using it, is we would all record in our planners anyway, regardless of SIMS. So they're still just doing it, if you like.
Yes, no.
Sorry, the question?
Even a recording for a substitute teacher, how do they access your account?
Well, no, that's the thing, you see, it would depend on who the teacher is. So if I was to do, it would need to be someone that you're going to say, here you go. Yeah, but if we're doing something departmentally, which we try and do, it's great because Pauline next door knows exactly what I'm doing. But it wouldn't be giving your iPad to somebody saying, here you go. But yeah, sorry, I should have maybe said that. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I teach art and design at St Paul's, and the oldest one in the department, although the only one that's mainly interested in doing things along the ICT path at the moment, because although the others are a bit younger than me, there is that fear when you're older of all the new things. Consider before you start that we're only getting our iPads now. There's only been 17 originally booked to give out, and I don't know when the pupils are getting them. I think there is enough for a class. So most of the stuff that I'm doing now, I'm going to talk about, this will all be changing when we get the pupils operating their iPads. So ICT and art and design across the school. We use our ICT as part of what we do normally. So from the year 8, they don't see it as IT is separate from art. It's another tool that we can use within art. Then you see where I am anyway, we have a digital studio with 16 Mac computers. So we normally share a computer. So you can see the advantages of the all iPads, that are different. And we start them off just with 2 40-minute classes, the basic stuff switching off and on because they're used to using PCs, not necessarily Macs, saving the work and so on. Photo booth, we always start with something fun and entertaining to get them interested and to keep them interested. It's very similar to most of the photo booths that children would see and use downtown to whether their friends to take a photograph from. We link this to our theme on portraiture. You can see me there, for example, but that's what it looks like for those of you that don't know photo booth. And we get the kids just to play with the different effects that are on, so have great fun in the digital studio, first 2 lessons really. And then they select a particular image in the photo booth that they want to bring in to the next IT piece of software, which is Photoshop. So using Photoshop, we only start off normally working on 1 layer, and they will learn then to import their picture that they want to work on, and give them an opportunity to experiment with a range of tools. So there, you can see there, that was the original image taken in from photo booth, with sort of yellow background, and then play around and get a different effect here. So they can save that, and then they work on a class with it. Next we program the year 8's go into is Comic Life. Again, filmmaking, it's an introduction to storyboarding, and they take photographs using the actual camera on the computer in front of them. So for any of you who don't know what Comic Life looks like, it's quite a fun and easy to understand piece of software. They just drag from the top right one of the layers that they have photos taken that are already there available to them, and they bring them in. They can add text there as well, play with the different layers and little speech bubbles and so on. So again, the kids have fun learning from that. Year 9 Photoshop more advanced. In Year 9, we do poster design. It can be on a number of things, different topics, but they'll use multiple layers to build a range of tools, and they build upon their existing knowledge. And they have a wee competition in the line at the end. Oops, I don't want to get on that there, sorry. The Year 9s love this aspect, besides stop motion animation, where we have the camera set on animation platforms. They have their little drawing at the bottom, and they have little fish that they move across the screen. They make a very short film. It takes 2 to 3 periods to do it. They have the opportunity to do voiceover, add their tags and so on. They bring it into GarageBand, where they can use different instruments. I didn't have any with me today, which would have been good, but I thought we didn't have enough time. So then we're into Year 10. We do our ICT accreditation task in art, working with images, level 5s and 6. I give them design brief, if it's the school yearbook cover that they're working on, give them a background of the school, give them as much help as possible at the start so they have a clear image of what they're doing when they go in to use the computers. A design brief to design a book cover for the yearbook, tell them what it must include, and the overall feel and who their target audience is. So again, I give them some web addresses to go to give them a hand to get started with their research. We also do mood boards. They can use that in different ways in our design. Some stuff in the folder, I've got a chance to show you. For example, most of your subjects you want them to do a bit of research, see how other people do things so they can compare and move on. So this is just part of it, part of what they're asked to do in the brief, looking at different designs and layouts that are already out there that are existing. Just give me an example of what I'm asking them to do. I give them the crest, have to incorporate the crest, and then they can use 2 or 3 simple images and rearrange them to whichever effect they want. So it can end up something simple looking like this. Year 10, again, film. Remember, we're building from year 8, so the year 10 film, we're working really on the photographic stills with the research artist, you know, who they were, where they lived, who the contemporaries were, and so on, to choose 3 examples of their work to talk about, and to put a film together where they have their titles at the start, they do a bit of research on the history of the artist, they put the work in, and they've got the voiceover to give them an opportunity to speak. So they use iMovie as well with this, so year 10 it's iMovie and stop motion animation really together. And then we have to build up again on using the Photoshop. We have multiple layers now they're working on, different filters and tools to design a careers poster. Again, they're importing images. They use advanced tools for text, merging images and so on. Year 11 and 12, all students are asked to select one image to experiment with as part of their GCSE work. It sort of ticks that box in the spec where they're asked to do as much experimenting in different areas as they can, and IT is one of them. All pupils' final outcomes, where they have a number of images they need to create to put together. We always do that in Photoshop. We photograph all the work, import it in, and we do our composition arrangement on there. It saves a lot of time, and it's easier for them to make decisions. It's a bit more like advanced storyboarding. And it's also possible to use Photoshop as the main medium within which to work for GCSE coursework in art. It doesn't have to be just drawing all the time. This is an example, just a GCSE art student whose work was selected for the True Colours exhibition, where the final outcome, although it was Photoshop inspired, ended up as a painting. But I do have another actual example there I can show you today of another girl's work whose final piece was in Photoshop. So you can see there, this is typical art for GCSE work with different images together. You can see here the introduction, basically down the right hand corner of a black and white image, which was inspired from looking at the artist's references in the middle. And then again you have here sort of this pop art, and then the pupil becomes more interested in Photoshop and what it can do. So they're researching and developing their ideas and arranging experimentation with tools and filters right through. And this is like the final piece before the planning piece, where they take an image and then they use all of that knowledge they gained in the preparatory sheets, and they did a canvas, painting of a canvas there, so that was one piece. Year 13 and 14, it's more IT and art is more based on the individual needs of the individual pupil and the projects they're working on. So it's more teacher guidance on a one-to-one basis. I have an example there, I'll probably go and get it now for you. But one last thing, if you want, you can take down this YouTube address here, WIKI26101. That is a year 8 animation that a pupil has made. So those pupils who come to us at the moment who have iPads and who are, shall we say, more interested than others, we will give them the time to listen and to speak to them and see if we can help them in any way. And a lot of the young ones now are already flying ahead of us. They're showing me things. But this young year 8 pupil has a fantastic wee animation. And the reason I chose that one to let you perhaps have a look at it if you like, is that there are hundreds and hundreds of little drawings that she's done to put together, like that flick animation. And it's really good. So when you have pupils like that are that interested, I feel we need to up our game big time to be able to help and encourage them. I just want to show you this one. And that's it, right? work, where the pupils can do mood boards and put on a template, and it's a very easy way for pupils to design the likes of bottles and things they'd be interested in. So that there's lots of those, they're all different. It means that each pupil is doing something that will look commercially finished at the end, so they're all happy with the results. Which is a great thing about IT, we look at that pass draw. And this is just the students' work in GCSE, where this image was done on Photoshop and then just printed out in A3, which is the frame job, obviously pushed it at home. But the bulk of that work was all done on computers. It's not the typical art approach. That's just one of the benefits of it. Where I've got an iPad now, and I'm dead keen on just noticing some of the other presentations. There are other little free apps that do similar things regarding homework and teaching line. What was that one I mentioned to you there?
Explain everything.
Explain everything. It's another good one to do. So that's me, so thanks very much.
I'm going to talk to you about QR codes. Started using, this is your typical QR code, and I started using these in maths. So I'm a maths teacher, and I'm trying to make use of all the digital technology out there. And this was one of the fastest and most efficient ways I found to use it. So, just to start off, it's a quick response code, that's what it is. It's basically changing from a barcode now to a QR code, and they're freely made on the internet. There's loads of websites that just easily create it. And basically, they're linked to anything. They're basically a hyperlink that a phone or some digital device that's got a camera with a QR reader attached to it can just quickly access. So I was looking at these, and basically it was just giving feedback to students. I felt I wasn't able to, I have generally class size of about 28 to 30, and I don't have enough time to give the feedback that I'd like to give back to students. And so I was looking at ways that I could actually improve my feedback that I could give back to them. So I looked at QR codes, and this is a typical homework that I was looking at. And I was finding myself just basically filling out, this was my own work in here. And I didn't really think that that was worthwhile. Some students will pick it up, and it's very much like your iPad Show Me app, that basically I wanted to actually talk them through. So what I actually did is, I've got a list of just of good maths videos that use the same methods that I use to teach topics. And so I basically stuck in a QR code, and what I did is actually took the envelope, the envelope stickers in the front office that they use to post out to parents, and just peel off labels. Well, I stole a few of them from the front office and put them in my printer, and then I can just easily just peel them off and stick them in students' books. So I stuck in this QR code here, and what it does is it actually takes me to a YouTube on area trapezium, so they can watch the video nice and quick. They're going through the homework. They can't do an area of a trapezium. Rather than me spend, if this person was one of 3 or 4, rather than me waste 10, 15 minutes in class talking about it, I can then give them a quick QR code, and they can go away and hopefully independently learn about it, and they can do it in the convenience of their own home. So I can stick those in nice and quickly, nice and efficiently, and I asked the students, I said, have you seen them before? Some of them had this, but I thought they were just a BBM code, but then I talked about them. The majority of the class have smartphones, and every smartphone has a camera on, and they installed a QR reader, and I broke school policy and just said, right, get your phones out, and they wouldn't be allowed to get them out in my school, so I got them to get the phones out, install a QR reader there, and I asked them just to take a snapshot, just so they could see that they could actually see how they worked. And the feedback I got from them was brilliant. That they said there's no excuse not being able to do homework on them, because my next step was to actually put it into worksheets. So I gave them expanded brackets homework, and I put the QR code there, so if they couldn't remember how to do them, or they were lazy, they didn't want to look in the notebook, there's a QR code just for that. Then a slightly different math skill is expand and simplify, so I put another QR code on there. So I embedded it into worksheets, and then more recently of what I've started to do is, I don't want to waste time in class sometimes handing out notes and, you know, just getting them copy off the board, so I might print them off a QR code that they can stick in the notebook, and at home they go home, watch the video, take down their own wee notes, and they can put in any questions. And for flipped lessons, you know, great for showing them videos, you know, that you want them to look at. At the moment, I'm just going through exam papers with some of my classes, and my year 12s were handing in papers the other day, and a few of them just couldn't do topics, and so I'm marking through, see that they can't do it, I just put a QR code in there, and I've literally just got about 20 pages of QR codes at the moment just in a folder, so I just peel it off, stick it in, and I've started to give revision lists, you know, in the term of QR codes, so there's no excuse on that they can't do a topic. So those were my initial thoughts, but then I wanted a bit more feedback. Sometimes I don't feel I get the chance to give them verbal feedback, so I was looking for a way of recording my own voice, just saying how I think you're doing really well in these parts of maths. I'd like to see your presentation improve. And to me, giving feedback in that verbal way rather than actually write that in the book, A, it's quicker for me, and B, they get to sense what tone you're saying it in, that sometimes they can read it and go, your work isn't good enough, or you could improve your presentation. If I'm saying it in a nice sort of way, they're going to hear that and they're going to appreciate it a bit better. So I struggled for a while, and then luckily I found this last week, this website, which is brilliant, which is called Vocaroo, I think, that's how you pronounce it. And you literally, you click record yourself, say that you're happy with it, and it does the usual stuff. But the best thing was, so you can download as MP3, it's the only one that I found that produces a QR code. So I plan on twice a year at least, is that when I'm marking the books, that I'm going to go, I'm just going to sit there with my, I have a Surface, and I'm just going to record, as I've marked the book, I can quickly summarise in a minute, record that, convert it to a QR code, and I can stick it in the book, that can go home, and hopefully, you know, I'm trying to make this a positive experience. I do not want to sit on there, speak on there moaning, saying, oh, you don't do this, you don't do that. I want it to be a positive thing, that they'll be proud of, that they'll even show the parents going, oh, listen to what Mr. Watson was saying about how I've been working. And so that I'm also bridging that gap between parent communication. And when they come in at parents' evening, they can talk about that. So that is a brilliant website and very easy to use. I was looking at also is that I do a report generator for to give them back a list of topics that I like them to work on. So I've done your typical spreadsheet that I've got topics that they're good at, topics that weak at, colour coded, and then I mail merge that with to produce a letter. So my mail merge says these are things you're very good at, these are things you're okay at, these are things you're not too good at, and I managed last week again, just taking it to the next step, is that I could actually insert a QR code from there. So now when they're looking at this original list, they'll get the topic list, but they can also then get a video link directly to those topics. And I'm just going to tidy that up, and I'm going to actually put a box in saying, what have you done about it? So that I can actually get some feedback to say, right, I've done that, I've accessed it. So that's about that. Creating them, really easy. A quick creation one, as I find, is qrstuff.com. Really easy to use. You just, as you can see, not really see here, these are all the types of data that you can link. You just copy and paste the YouTube address in if you're YouTubing it, paste it there, click download, free, you don't need to sign up or anything, so it's really handy. And then I save that into a file name and make sure you name it properly. The best thing is to embed them, I think, into worksheets before sticking them, you know, printing off loads of labels, etc. And then, as I said, steal these from the front office and steal those, and then I've got a sheet on. Make sure you write on what topic it is, otherwise it's a bit of a nightmare. Okay, and I literally have just a file of those at the moment. Okay, that is it. Okay, if you want a copy of that present, you've got a smartphone, there's the QR code for it. But I will leave a copy, and if you've got any questions or anything, just email me.
Okay, well, my name is Kira McCarty and I'm the head of Irish in St Paul's in Westbury, and I'm going to talk to you today about Memrise. Memrise is a website that we are using with our students at the moment in Key Stage 3, GCSE and A-level to help them cope with and deal with the vast amount of vocabulary needed when learning a language. But it is applicable for every subject, and I'll show some examples from other subjects as well. On the website, Memrise describes itself as learning powered by imagination. It's a tool to learn vocabulary, languages, history, science, trivia, and just about anything else. Most importantly for me and everybody here is it's free, so you don't have to pay for it, which is always a bonus. So why are we using it in Irish? Traditionally, there isn't a lot of resources available for Irish. French and Spanish and all have a lot of things produced by all the exam boards, but as Irish teachers, and I know there's a few here, we've always had to create our own resources. So when I came across Memrise, I thought it was ideal for what we needed. We've created our own courses on here, but there are thousands of courses built in every subject area already. And there were some Irish courses as well that you might find work for your subject if you just want to create your own. Oh, sorry. Don't want to go there. And it's open to everyone, so from students, adults, whoever wants to use it. So this is what it looks like. Here's me up in the corner, I'm very glamorous. Over here we have our followers, and students can follow you. They're mostly St Paul's students, but there are students and teachers from other schools. Up here we have a picture that's a bit like a flower and 191 items. And when you visit the student's profile, that tells you how many words they have learnt, and the point system as well. Looking down here, you'll see the courses that we have built. This is the first 150 words that our Year 8 and Year 9 students need when learning Irish, and then the GCSE course as well. Anyone is welcome to use them, any teachers from any school, any students from any schools. And like I said, a lot of them are built already, but we just decided to build our own. My name on Memrise is Kira McCoy. I'll squash together. It's case sensitive, so if you want to take that down and follow me, it's just off the top there. So how does it work? Memrise uses the idea of growing a plant when learning anything new. So you plant the seed, you go back and you water it and water it, and then you end up with a plant. So when you're learning new vocabulary, they say you have to plant it, and then you have to go back and water it. So when you're starting to learn the word, it gives you the Irish and the English beside it. To water the plant as such, it'll go back and test you on spelling, and I'll show some examples of that in a minute. They have the add function of mems, and mems are basically memory aids, and anybody can add these in. So I haven't added them in as a teacher creating the course, but this woman from Dublin has added this one in, and that's how she remembers the word shocked. As teachers, we need to be a wee bit cautious here because students can add anything in here at all, and we really have no way of policing it. And you can report a mem if it's inappropriate, but I haven't come across anything yet. So then, to water the plant, you have like multiple choice questions, or else they'll test the spelling of the word as well, which is very good. So once they're convinced that you know it and you've watered it, then you go back and check the spelling, and they will gradually make the levels harder as the students go on. One thing I would say about technology is it can't be something that's happening outside the classroom and they're going home. Students like to know that you know what they're doing, you see the effort that they're putting in at home. So the way I've used it and taken it back into the classroom is that I've created a 50,000 points challenge. So over the midterm, I asked Year 11 and Year 12 students to achieve 50,000 points. You'll see now from the leaderboard that a lot of them are well over 100,000 points. And I've never asked them to go past 50,000. So that's enough proof for me that they like it, that they're using it, and that it's working for them as well. So this is a leaderboard, and we've Michael Lindsay up there. One of my year 12 students is on 582,000 points, I think he's on now. This Kate Robbins is not from my school, I don't know who he is. And then different students well over 100,000 points too. So this is what the student's profile will look like. This is Carol, he has 85,000 points, and it equates to about 200 new words in the language, which is brilliant. You know, if they're learning 200 new words in a year, I'd be happy. There's absolutely no chat function on it, or discussion forum, or private email, so it's completely safe in regards to child protection, and that's all you see of the student, and you can't communicate with them in any way through it. This is in my classroom. I have a memorised chart, and these again are year 11 and year 12 students. When I put these photos up at the start, they told me they were absolutely mortified by them because it's their photos from Sims. But as soon as they have the points, they're asking me to move their pictures up, so I think they're actually secretly quite proud of it. These are some examples from other subjects. Again, I didn't build these courses, these are all available on Memorise, and that's how history is using it, maths and science. Another use, there is added function, particularly for language teachers, of adding sound to the courses. I hadn't done this yet until one of the students in my year 8 class came up to me the other day, and he's in a low ability class, and we would think he had difficulties learning languages, to tell me he was learning basic Italian. And he had found a course on Memorise and was listening to it and could tell me how to order a glass of wine in Italian and learning it, so you know, it's working for them. I've seen teachers from Key Stage 2 and high frequency words using them for spellings. The teacher has recorded their voice and the students are typing them in. And there is an app for it, which will be the first question all your students will ask you. There's an app available, and as well as that, you don't have to be on Wi-Fi. Once you've downloaded the course, they can turn their internet off, so it's not using their data, and they can use it, and then the scores will add up when they go back on Wi-Fi again. So that's basically all I have to say. I had 2 minutes, but I think I might have went over it. So any questions, there's my Memorise name and my email address, so that's all.
Hello, how are you? I'm Christine from St Paul's High School as well. We're keen to get out to our Group 16 afternoon this afternoon, so that's why we're sort of pushing things on a wee bit. I am Head of Health and Social Care at St Paul's, also teach sociology, and I'm a year ahead, so I'm sort of wear a few hats a lot of different times. What I'm here to talk about today is sort of what we all know, how we can transform our teaching through the use of Twitter. Just to put it into context, approximately 2 years ago, St Paul's began its Twitter career through Director of ICT, Danny Murray. Last count, I think, with 2,050 followers, so it really has blossomed, and I think the 2,000 follower got a prize at some stage in February, so we really have worked on that in terms of a whole school ICT strategy. October 2012, staff were invited again, other schools said we can't force staff to do anything, so we were invited to undertake Twitter training with a view to opening a Twitter account. Again, it was sort of very dip your toe in the water type of thing. And we were encouraged to open up our own personal Twitter accounts and see how we could get on as regards that. I'm a non-IT person at all, so this was a big thing for me to try and sort of get online as regards that new sort of social media type thing. So Danny encouraged us to do it personally, and then with a view to developing it as a departmental initiative. There are now 12 individual departments within St Paul's who utilise their own Twitter accounts. As I said, initially I started off as @CFAR996, and it was great, and you were able to sort of follow other schools and see what they were doing. And your students, I initially started with sociology, so my small class then decided to follow me, and we would have a wee bit of chat and all the rest. So Snow Day, I sent out this message last year that will we do our class sort of Twitter, and surprisingly all 12 of them said yes, we will, for a wee bit of crackness instead of throwing snowballs. So we did do that, and we picked what we were going to talk about that day, and we had done our discussion via Twitter, and we found it worked very well. And even our quieter students in the class, I felt that they were willing to tweet some things, albeit in 140 characters. Now the downside of that was that another student who wasn't a sociology student tweeted back, if I had wanted to study sociology, I might have picked it as an A-level subject. So then we sort of thought, right, we need to move from the personal to the departmental, and that's when we decided maybe to go at St Paul's Sociology and at St Paul's Health and Social Care, and to encourage our students to follow us. So that's one of the Twitter accounts that I operate. That's our sociology one. That's what the screen looks like as such. To date, 220 tweets, 74 following, I'm following 74 and 90 followers. Now, there are only 11 A2 students doing sociology and there maybe are 18 AS students, so lots of those followers are other schools and students from other schools or teachers from other schools or whatever. And you can see that on Friday, that's as much as we've been done. You've seen some things that we retweeted, stuff we tweeted and all the rest. So I suppose what we're talking about is why use Twitter as a learning tool. The first thing that I felt was it represents us embracing new forms of media, and it sort of shows that we're willing to engage with students in a way that suits their needs and meet them halfway. And we have found they really are responding to that very well. The fact that they're willing to follow us and the fact that they're willing to tweet any ideas that they have or any questions shows that it appeals to them. A key reason for, I suppose, is consolidating teaching and learning beyond the classroom. Obviously that's where a lot of it takes place and all the rest. But it is, you know, as a teacher, if you do come across anything, like we're talking 30 seconds to tweet something from the account so that students, our own students and other followers, you know, sort of can access it. That was something last week. We've been talking about moral panics and about, you know, how lots of moral panics surrounding young people. And then I found an article in a journal and had tweeted that, you know, again to back up what we'd already done in class that day and we'd be doing again the next day. And I found that again, you know, they were reading it, they were retweeting it, and other followers from other schools were also retweeting it. So it showed that it was helping consolidate and build on the learning and teaching that was already going on. Again, there was another thing that I had found as well. This recent example shows an image which I found that evening, which backed up exactly what we were discussing in class that day. And again, it was just an image, and I was able to sort of tailor it towards what we were talking about Becker's view on homosexuality, you know, not being deviant depending on what way you looked at. And students really liked that, and again, they were able to come in the next day and talk about the whole sort of African government and what way they were viewing it, you know, different ways of policing, I suppose, homosexuality. So they find that type of thing very interesting. Now, I suppose one of the drawbacks on it is that some teachers have said that that's eaten into your home life. 30 seconds. You know, we are on our iPhones anyway. It's really, it's up to you. You put the phone away or you don't put it away. So going out to dinner, you know, you keep it in your handbag or you switch it off or whatever. So it doesn't eat into things too much. It eats into it as much as we want it to sort of, you know, eat into our home time or whatever. I find that it doesn't really. There are some evenings you're busier than others. But the fact that students are following it, the fact that they're retweeting or they're asking you to clarify something that you have tweeted, I think it is effective. I think it is working. I suppose another reason, another justification for using Twitter as a learning tool is this opportunity to collaborate with our students, obviously, to collaborate with schools, and even from a subject perspective, to collaborate with sociologists. So last week I tweeted Charles Murray, famous new right thinker, and had said, we were looking at regulative theories of crime and deviance. You link poor socialisation cause crime, what solutions? So very abruptly he said back, nothing I can give you in 140 characters. So he wasn't willing to engage, and I wasn't that happy. And then he tweeted to our students, would they like to ask him a question? And they did, and he still hasn't responded. So he feels a wee bit hesitant as regards that, but he does respond. There's a sociologist that they're reading about in textbooks that now they can actually engage with. So it's excellent as regards that. I know as regards some other departments, you know, the idea of, you know, tweeting an artist or a historian or something like that is very appealing to students. Another reason I find that it works well, another justification for using it, is that it allows us to encourage students to take responsibility for their own learning. You know, midterm thing, as I say, 30 seconds, you know, it doesn't take you that long to use up 140 characters. Things I've said, February 25th, reminding class to read ahead on labelling notes as background preparation for tomorrow's class, and we smiley face to try and get them in a good mood as regards doing that. But again, it's up to the student. They can choose to do it, or they can, you know, they can choose to ignore it. It's up to them. But it is a wee gentle reminder, and I think for some students it is a nudge in the right direction. Things like this here, use half-term to organise your notes and files. And again, have a wee laugh at it, and lots of the stuff is good crack as well as educational. I've also used it very well as regards celebrating student work and sharing good practice. So this was an essay I was correcting at home one night, and again, excellent start to a difficult essay on impact of media content on audience. So you have the title of the essay, there was the first paragraph, I took a photograph of it, and you can see my comments on it, and So there you had a student who was delighted that her work was being celebrated and all the rest. And she wouldn't be a top student, so it really, really worked well for her. She was retweeting it so that her followers could see it. And then you had other students able to look at actually what was it that Sarah Jane had said that I thought was so good. So you're allowing them to, beg, borrow, or steal some ideas from a student who was showing very good practice in terms of concepts and things like that. Also has allowed me to promote and record what's going on in the classroom, which again is good for us for our post-16 day-to-day in terms of promoting your subject, in terms of highlighting what is going on, particularly for subjects that students aren't doing down the school, like perhaps your sociology, maybe business studies, your health and social care. So again, things like the games we were doing, some of the student work, rather than like this evening me just saying to them, well look, this is what we do, this is what we do, and then looking at students' work and students' textbooks, that they can go and they can see what we're actually about. So it's a good record, even in terms of we're talking about our student planners, it's a good record. If anyone comes to you and says you're doing nothing in the classroom, you can say, well just go follow me on Twitter and you'll see exactly what we're doing in the classroom. I found it's been a good motivating thing, things like this here, reminding them of how many days, weeks, months, whatever, to their next exam, and it panics them a wee bit. Things like get studying, this is your date, and all the rest. It is a good motivating factor, especially on, say, a Sunday night, 30 seconds, the week's not over, why not do half an hour? Last night I had tweeted a YouTube video, 8-minute revision, do it, and it was amazing. I had my first tweet this morning how many of them had actually done it, because I had made it appealing to them. I was saying, it was only 8 minutes of your time, you can get back to the TV, in 8 minutes, do it. Promoting other departments, as I said, today we're in a hurry, we're going to our post-16 day, and again, you're showing what's going on in other departments to your own followers, to students inside school and outside the school. So that's again year 12, consider your post-16 options next year, and that's our at St Paul's careers. Being topical, last Saturday was International Women's Day, so things like that, or Friday the 7th of March is International Women's Day, think big girls, and with Hillary Clinton, and they like that when it's up to date. Lots of those, like Mental Health Week, I was tweeting things about Mind Your Head and stuff like that. Incorporating whole school priorities. I tweeted this from my other Twitter account, and in terms of our literacy policy, to improve the quality of written work, encouraging students, to print that out, put it in their file in terms of some of the common mistakes lots will make, that there, and the where, and all that type of thing. And enhancing the student-teacher relationship. Beyond learning is good crack, and I just find students feel involved. They like that involvement, that you're tweeting them, not personally, you're tweeting them as a class. So that was on the way out one of the days last week. One of them grabbed my phone. You can see how non-security conscious I am. They take a wee selfie of themselves and way on the head. Not even I was in this photograph of one of my students. So it was me sitting at the desk, totally oblivious to Haley Mack, and lifting my phone on our way out the door and taking a selfie. So just as regards things like that, even it's good, I find that it works well. That's me. Any questions? No, I didn't think so.
How doing? As Tim said, my name is James White, and I teach Irish and ICT at St Louis. This afternoon I'm going to speak very briefly about how we've incorporated media into Irish in the junior school, particularly at Stage 3. And I'm going to focus on how we've integrated the use of green screen in the past number of months. So basically, how did we get to this stage? Well, through a review of our schemes of work, we found that some junior pupils were becoming a little demotivated, and there was a need to integrate a little bit more interactivity into the lessons. And obviously down the line we're thinking numbers at GCSE as a small school, there's a bit of a fight for survival, and so we wanted to make the junior school as interesting for them as possible. So we wanted to motivate our students and integrate some interactivity. And obviously we were acutely aware of the ICT accreditation scheme that was running already in the school, and some subjects had already signed up to that. So we thought through the introduction of some media projects that we could actually become involved in that as well. So the types of projects we developed then, we began with a video diary for sale on LLA, which was a present tense topic taught in Year 9. The traditional methods of assessment here were in the form of an oral exam at the end of the topic or an extended piece of writing. This we found wasn't motivating for our students. So was there another way they could produce the same or show their own competence in the language acquisition. And we thought the video diary covered this quite well, because our students were able to demonstrate their oral skills in the presentation of what they recorded, but they were also able to practice the written element of the language in the storyboard and the planning stage that preceded the finished product. This then fed through into year 10, and the students produced a promotional tour of the school based around school life and subjects, and I suppose a good resource then when it came to open day, we were able to showcase the type of work that our students were involved in. So the equipment we needed basically to get us off the ground. The students were using Windows Movie Maker, which was on the C2K system, and then the school, the Irish department invested in a number of these small pocket cams, which retailed around £60 on eBay. So we bought 6 of those. We paired up our students, so they were working in pairs, and they rotated roles then over the course of the project. At the beginning, we found maybe it was a bit of a lengthy process, and it maybe had too much into teaching time. We maybe allocated 4 weeks for the project, and it was overspilling, and we had to dedicate more Irish lessons to go to the IT suite and tidy the projects up. And there was obviously an independent element to this where they would work at home. But over the years, we've been able to tighten that up, and we've been able to work with Tim in the ICT department so that we jigged our own schemes around in our own timescales, so that the Irish department focused on the theory and the language acquisition and the grammar element, and then hopefully whenever that was finished, it would be in time then in the year 9 ICT scheme where the students would be starting video editing on Windows Movie Maker. So as part of the ICT scheme then, the students could work on their Irish project, and that would satisfy assessment in ICT. So from there then we've taken that a bit further, and we had the development of the Tower Studio. So this was a collaborative project between ourselves in the Irish department and the Media Studies department. I suppose this came to light one day. I was teaching in the IT department, and I noticed some year 12 Media Studies students working on a piece of coursework, and I was, I suppose, a little curious why they were recording themselves in front of the interactive whiteboard with a bit of blue paper behind them, and I couldn't understand why they just didn't leave the plain white background. And it was only really whenever I followed what had been developed as a result that they were actually using chroma key and green screen technology, and for me that was something new. And I suppose the prospect at the start, it seemed too advanced, so we couldn't use that here. But in fact it was a very basic principle, and there's very little knowledge required to successfully key a video. So we developed a new space. We had a redundant language lab, which a lot of schools have, where the old tape decks were on the wall. It was being used basically as a store, and we said, well, let's install a permanent green screen here that can be used by ourselves and the Media Studies department. And we're very happy that the school then supported us in our bid. So this was the space that we created. We had a stud wall installed, a cheap tin of green paint, and we invested in a lighting kit for that. The lighting kit cost £150 for 3 lights on eBay. So it wasn't an overly big investment by the school. We had access to Macs, we had a HD camera there, and the room was very versatile to what we wanted to achieve. I suppose it is very important to point out that you don't need a permanent structure. This can be done with a piece of coloured paper in the background. The one downside to using the paper that we have found with experience is that you get creases, which increases the risk of shadows. And when it goes to key an item, then it's very, very difficult to eliminate those shadows. But the most important ingredient really is good lighting. If you have a balanced lit area in the background, you can do anything with it. So these are some of the benefits that we have identified of using the green screen over the past number of months. So first of all, it encourages pupils to work collaboratively. There's an element of enjoyment, and it introduces new skills to them. It encourages creativity, and it introduces industry standard practice in terms of media and filmmaking. You don't need to be an expert to run green screen within your subject. Students are able to experience the whole process. So we started off with the planning and storyboarding. We move on to the recording, we go into the editing stage, and then chroma key and green screen it right through then the completion of the final product. And at the very end, I'll show you a few examples of what we completed. Some other benefits included that it enriches all areas of the curriculum, and it is a shared resource that can be used across a wide range of subjects. There's an opportunity to use cutting-edge technology. We were able now to introduce our junior students to more advanced pieces of video editing software like Final Cut Pro on the Macs. And obviously then we were offering the experience to our students to move from the traditional use of PC to using that new resource that we invested in school as well. And finally, pupil engagement has resulted in increased participation in the subject area and has helped with subject promotion. So again, there is that motivation coming through from the junior school where we are seeing a sustainable number at GCSE, and then again then that feeds through at A level. So students have also commented that the experience has helped them to retain subject knowledge through memory of experience. So with the likes of the video, Darren, our year 9 pupils previously hated the thought of the present tense in Irish because it involved a bit of grammar and conjugating verbs, putting rules together and doing this and doing that. And they just hated it, they thought it was extremely boring. But by actually documenting their day from morning to night in the form of a video, they feel they can relate back to that and remember exactly what they were doing and the types of verbs they used to describe that. So our current projects include an iShare, which is interactive weather forecast. Traditionally we would have used PowerPoint for this task, where students would have animated a PowerPoint slide to bring clouds in, a picture of the sun, and we would have stood in front of the classroom and presented the weather for the day. Now with the green screen we can actually superimpose backgrounds behind them, and they love playing the part of Frank Mitchell. It really, there is a fun element there as well. We're able to do studio interviews, and down the line we would hope then that we would be able to do regular interviews that could be broadcast around the school. We're looking into using YouTube as a platform for that, and obviously each year we take part in the BBC School News Report. So again, it's an added resource that can be used by range of departments. So an example of the type of weather forecast, we developed our own graphics using Photoshop. Now again, the opportunity exists where we can link that into our current year 9 scheme of work in ICT, where they are working on Photoshop. There's no reason why pupils could not create their own backgrounds in ICT and tie that in to the Irish then. So we've got a recap on the vocabulary days of the week, place names and the relevant vocabulary needed to describe the weather. Plus we also have the advantage of reconsolidating all the different tenses, so the students could give the weather forecast in the past tense, the present tense and the future tense. So down here we see an example of what it looks like using Final Cut Pro. We simply import our video, which was taken against the green screen, and we then import the image that we want to see at the back. And using the keying tool, which is under effects, I know this image isn't very clear, but using the keying tool, we simply drop that on top of the video and you use the colour picker to substitute the green out. Within minutes, you have a fully substituted image. I'm no expert at this, okay, and this was a very new concept for me, but within 5 minutes the other day I had a fully keyed and finished video. Okay, so it's not a very time-consuming process. This shows, obviously from the camera, the setup in the room. There's absolutely nothing behind us, and I'll show you the running video of this in a minute. It was simply a lit green space behind us. We were sitting in 2 chairs in the room, and the HD camera recorded all the events. That's what it ended up like. Okay, now that was simply a sourced image from the internet, and that was substituted as the background. And I'm just going to show you now a few examples of what we've completed. So I talked earlier about the video diary. So this was an example of something that our year 9 pupils produced where they documented their usual day. The first part's very dark.
School was vacant.
So that's just a small example of what they can do. So instead of this extended piece of writing, they're able to document their day in an alternative format. The next example then shows the setup that we had in the room when recording for an interview against the green screen.
And you heard a show to John Farley agus Dashtree John Skull Yas and Ernie Mullen agus Tasha Shaw or Skull Leave the Way. So we're going to come to cast for John and you. Did you ever talk to John?
So that just shows the layout of the room. We're simply in front of the camera. The green screen was evenly lit behind us. We tried to eliminate as many shadows as possible, and this then was the end result.
Díomh agus Brigade Fáilte Jack, inniu ar an seo to John Farley agus Dastrí John ó Scoil ó Yas ar na Mullach agus tá sé seo ar Scoil Ní Bhluain leis agus tá go couple of ceist ar John inniu. Díomh, could you ever talk to John? Ain't that right? And this John,
So John actually is a student that moved to us from a school in Drogheda. He's currently studying for his GCSE. He's currently in year 9, and he has a keen interest in media. So for those type of students, this offers an alternative medium for them to practice using their Irish, apart from the traditional oral setting. So, as I said, he has a keen interest in media. He's produced a few short films of his own. So he loves to get into the studio and use this green screen as a means of preparing for an oral. Or, again, it can be used as a resource for ourselves to go back and show the class. This is how John performed in an oral and how he described himself. So basically, that's all I have to talk about today. But if anyone has any questions, more than welcome.
Thanks very much, Tim.
This will be very, very, very short. This is nothing to do with iPod, it's just a skill that I was using for the likes of parent-teacher meetings. I've seen teachers going in with every colour up to the sun, and it was just something that I was showing them that they could use in their teaching. And as you say, this is like a typical set of marks, and it's just a way of colour coding it very quickly and very easily. So all you simply do, and again this is probably stating the obvious, is highlight the data. Highlight the data, choose conditional formatting. This is something not many people have used. Go to colour scales, and if you click on the likes of this one here, it will actually colour coordinate in based on the range of values that are there. So for example, if I highlighted this range here, it would highlight the good students, so this would be the best. It would also highlight the not so good students, and it's just a very quick and easy way of colour coordinating marks, if that makes sense. So that's just a quick example there, and again it's very good for parent-teacher meetings and just seeing where pupils are. And again, if you've got a range of tests, it doesn't matter what the values are, it will quickly pick out the highest, it will quickly pick out the lowest. It's just a very quick and easy way of doing it. And again, I think you can see clearly what pupils are working, what pupils aren't working. And again, it's just a wee skill that's what I was using for the likes of parent-teacher meetings. Other uses for it, if you wanted to, the likes of that I find it quite handy, and I used the little icons, and I'll just show you them very quickly before you go. There's also little icon sets here that if you want, and again, any topics at all, just put it in, and then I give them just very quick feedback about how they're getting on in the course book. So I use a 3 for a good, a 1 for a red, and a 2 for an amber, and I just quickly tell them how they're getting on with their testing, as well labeled or whatever. That's basically the course. So if you want it, it's there, and again, if you have any questions, just send me, I'll check them. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Class. I'm a member of the Maths Department in St Colman's College. And as Kevin spoke earlier, we engaged in our iPad scheme 2 years ago, where the staff got their iPads 2 years ago and the students have got theirs this year. In terms of mathematics, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a relatively paperless environment, because what was happening in the department was every student was getting a set of maybe 200 page notes every year. So the head department was chatting how could we get rid of this and how could we reduce photocopying bills, which were quite extensive. So what we decided to do when the first years got their iPads this year, we decided to develop an iBook. And in order to develop the iBook, we had to download the software. It was iBook Author software, and it has to be downloaded into a Mac. I wrote it personally, I don't have a MacBook Air, but it could be downloaded on the school's Macs, and staff could log in and work on it whenever they wanted to. Before we started, it was one of those things that as a department, we really had to sit down and decide upon what type of structure we wanted our iBook to take, because we were aware that the notes were there and we wanted to make use of them, and then we had their textbooks kind of syncing up with their notes.
So we wanted to make sure that we weren't diverging too much away from the scheme of work, and we wanted it just to kind of follow on from what staff are currently doing as well. So we sat down and we decided upon what structure we wanted our iBook to take. So the iBook author software allows you to put your iBook into chapters. For the students, we wanted each of the sub-chapters to have the same format, so we wanted their notes to come first of all, and then Paddy was chatting about the Show Me videos earlier. We wanted Show Me videos created for each of the example set that they were doing. So these Show Me videos, I know Paddy was putting them up online and using the URLs, but if you look at the arrow over on the right of the screen, you're actually able to download those videos off the Show Me website as well. And the iBook author software, which is very, very powerful, allows you to embed that video into your iBook. So when the students download their iBook, the video is there explaining the maths example that they're talking about in class. Then the next thing that we wanted to do after the students watched the video, we wanted them to complete kind of interactive style questions. The iBook author software allows you to write your own questions and pop them in. So this kind of, I know it's very small, this first arrow, it's basically multiple choice questions. So it's a question, they can take the right answer, and it gives them instant feedback as well. So it just doesn't tell them if they've got it wrong or right. You can tell them if they've maybe chose the wrong answer, why they've chosen the wrong answer, and identify possible errors for them. And then kind of the next thing that we want to do is just have general questions that they could complete into their maths notebook. I'm sure you can imagine, quantity and size of the iBook was quite large for 1 year. If you can imagine, every example that you do in a classroom is done as a video. It really took up a lot of size. So what I just decided to do, I cut our book for the year up into 4. So the students download it kind of on a termly basis, and obviously the Christmas term or the September Christmas term being the longest one to download it to in that time scale. How I decided and how we shared it with them was we popped it into iTunes U, and Kevin was chatting about the school has an iTunes U course, a bit like the other universities. They all have their kind of, it's so to speak, it's BLE. We didn't have that at the time, so the only issue I would have with it was each of our courses only held 50 students, and unless your school is enrolled in iTunes U, you can only put 50 people into a personal course. So for our entire J1 year group, I had to, basically copy 3 courses and upload all of this stuff 3 times, if you know what I mean. So I would maybe make sure, if you were doing a student rollout, to make sure that your school was enrolled in iTunes U before you started. And then that means that you can throw all your iBooks, all your documents up into iTunes U and they can download it. I'll just push on here. In terms of managing your course, you can double check who's logged into it, who's enrolled in it, to make sure people aren't kind of, if you didn't want people stealing, books and whatnot. I know we were kind of aware that we had copyrighted material in our book, so we didn't want the general public accessing it, we just wanted the students, so to speak, accessing it. Then, in terms of note-taking in the maths classroom, we use an app called Notability. It basically, the students put all their notes into Notability. They can annotate over the top of them. They can record their voice whilst they're doing something. It really, really is the most powerful note-taking app that I've come across. And as you can see, it allows them to organise, chapter by chapter what they're doing, and it allows them to export their work as PDFs or Word or whatever they want. So it really is a fantastic app as well. The other thing about Notability is if they want to save or back up the work, it has full functionality to back up to Dropbox and Google Drive, and you can even tweet it or whatever. So if I wanted them to tweet me a question, they can tweet it to me directly out of the app. And then the last thing that we're using in the maths classroom, just in terms of making it a kind of paperless environment, would be kind of our marking and assessment app. And it's an app called ShowBe. I don't know if you've heard of it, but ShowBe is spelled B-I-E. And what it does is it allows me to set an assessment, so I can go back to school and say I missed my first years there at the end of the day. I can literally go in I can start a new homework for them, and I can set a time when I want that done for. So I have them again on Wednesday, so preferably I would like it done for Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. That sets off an alarm on their iPad. They know they have to have it sent to me by that time. And then when I go into it, I obviously go into my J1D mathematics, and basically it tells me who has, I know it's very small, sorry, who has sent the homework in on time, and it allows me to go into it and mark it as well. You can mark it physically by ticking it with a red pen on your iPad, and then it gives you the functionality of giving them written feedback. That speech bubble at the top is written feedback from me, and you can give them a voice recorded feedback as well, or you can take a picture of something that you would like them to improve on, and then you can tell them to go and redo it. You can also set a little reminder for yourself. If you've told them to go and redo something and they do go and upload that, it tells you that they have went and done that, and you can go and look at it again. And there's just an example of how easy it is to go in and just mark the work. And it's basically just an electronic document that you can mark on screen. Sorry for having to go so quickly. Does anybody have any questions regarding the negative author software or anything like that?
Is that what you use iBook Author itself?
iBook Author to create the textbook here. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Simon from Our Ladies. I'm going to keep this as quick as I can. So this is an app called Aurasma. It's based on something called augmented reality, which basically means taking interactive content and overlaying it with something that's actually real. The easiest way to explain it is just to show you a couple of things that I came up with. So the app itself is free, and you can download it on iOS or Android. So I've basically got my students to go away and download it. So I've just given an example. I've got a couple of these up in my politics room, so these are really, I'll use these for open day. So why choose politics? So imagine that's us stuck up on the wall. Take Aurasma and hold it over that there. And then that basically comes alive. Can you see that? That's sideways, isn't it? Right. Try this way. Okay, there you go. So that's what my students talking about why politics is so brilliant, why I'm so amazing. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter where you stand. It keeps the. It's a bit like Harry Potter when they use the newspaper cover live. It's quite good. So I've got 2 or 3 of those up on the wall in my politics room. So I was thinking, okay, that's quite gimmicky. How much are you going to make this work in the classroom? I just tried this last week. So this is a worksheet I gave to my GCSE history of 4th years. So this is 2-in-1 worksheet, right? Let's see if I can like this. So first, this is about Bloody Sunday, right? So first of all, there's a video there. So that comes alive on the worksheet like that. There's actually music to that as well, but so they can do that. Second thing as well, you probably can't see this. That's an exam question, like a 5-mark exam question from a GCSE paper, right? This is combining 2 apps, so this is like explain everything. I did a little video on it to explain how you answer the exam questions. So now they can hold this over that. And again, there's no sound on this, but that's actually that's actually my voice explaining how you answer this question. So, yeah. So you can hear me doing that anyway. And then, if I let that play for another few seconds, I actually bring the mark scheme up on there and start annotating that as well. So basically on that sheet you've got a 2-minute video they can watch, and then you've got like a 3-minute tutorial on how to answer the question, and I gave it to them over the weekend, they came back this morning and I got a bit of feedback and they seem to think it was good, they liked it, so we'll see if I can come up with any more ideas. If you want to ask me any questions you can, or just go on to the Orasma website and it tells you exactly how to use it, and there's loads of other really good examples of stuff that's been done. I think there's some potential there anyway.
Is that how they're driven, is it, from those slogans?
No, I put those slogans. You have to create everything yourself.
Yeah.
It sounds complicated, but it's actually not. The actual thing that comes alive is called an aura. So I could take a video now of you just talking, and that's the aura. Then you have to choose a trigger image, which is the image that gets the aura working. But they're the two things you need to work on. The only thing, if you want something to look like it actually comes alive, you have to make sure your trigger image is a screenshot of the first. Say you've got a video, you have to screenshot the first scene on that video, and then turn that into your trigger image, then it'll look like the actual image comes alive. So that's what I've been doing anyway. So that's it. Thanks very much.
I am a bit of a traditionalist still in my teaching, and I don't believe that anything can supplement the teacher's enthusiasm or anything. So I follow the Sophie approach in the department as well, and been looking for ways to promote. I teach languages, primarily Irish but Spanish as well, and but the most enjoyable and most important part of teaching languages is the oral. Right? That's what they all want, that's what they all love, even though the others are very important. So I was just looking for wee ways that I can promote the oral, and through that you promote the speaking as well. Does anybody here, has an Irish in a while would like to try this out? I can't go with James or anybody because he would know the crack. Anyway, this is the app called Dougal Buddy. It's very, Kevin will do it for me, or Conor rather. Dougal Buddy is really easy and, it's free, I just want to say. It's very straightforward. Kids really enjoy it. I use it in juniors. So I haven't linked it up here, but if you go on it, you'll see that there's a chalk. I'll borrow somebody's image I need, but I don't really need to actually, because I pass it around the students to the set. There's a chalk icon, there's a wheat stamp icon as well, which you can, and it has it's got eating on animals and so for your teaching pets or whatever. It's got an elephant in there somewhere as well and all that. You want to teach them word for elephant in Irish, whatever. So it's all there, and it also has a variety of backgrounds that you can link into, about weather and anything like that. And all you do is shake it to clean the screen. So I'm going to go change my background, and I am going to give it to Kevin to test his Irish and see if he can remember how to describe anybody. Okay, so I'm going to do a description of somebody. Okay, you ready? Tá ma húlia gurm. Kevin's going to draw me a face here.
All right, I can draw you a face.
Yeah.
Okay.
And somebody was describing, if I was teaching, for example, I should have introduced them, but I don't want to keep anybody easy. I'm teaching physical characteristics, and I'm doing it as a listener to improve it. So yeah.
Target or John Jeffrey.
What should we tell? That shouldn't take it right here. Okay. Tam Hitchgrug Finn.
You know the next one, you've lost me there.
Right? August Ta Ahas Erm.
I don't know. I'll get asked.
This is my long pale Hielach. Which is kind of half describing Kevin, except for the groove, but sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin long pale. So then you turn it around and show it to me. And the colours are off completely, but anyway, he had fun. So that's more or less it. The eyes are supposed to be blue, and the hair is supposed to be blonde. But anyway, but he did get the football thing, which is great. So give him a bit of us. That's what it's all about. It's a listening now. It's very effective. I pass it around, and they all love it. And you can do it with anything that you're teaching as well. The other thing we've been trying to do, we're up against it with STEM subjects being promoted in the schools, with an agenda and time and bigger class sizes and all of that. So what we look to do is just support teaching,
support our own teaching, find ways that the students can learn on their own at home. So when you can look on the Our Ladies VLE, well, or I suppose you'll be able to log into it, but we put podcasts on it which we record with microphones, USB microphones, we record them. It supplements what they're learning at the time, the students listen to them at home, and they also have the kind of Word documents to back them up, and it's proved to be really, really effective, and it really helps to quicken up our teaching. It's very, very efficient as well, and we use it a lot in class as well, and it really improves their confidence in the language. So that's me.
Thank you.